Welcome to another edition of the Hoop Scoop. I'm Jared Johnson. I'm joined by the Mighty Joe Yeager. Mighty Joe, man, run out of superlatives, right? To talk about this basketball team, but it's right there for them. The Red Raiders are going to take on Iowa State in Ames on Saturday with a chance to at least clinch a part of the Big 12 title, which would be amazing. And one of the best parts of that is Kansas will not be a part of that. You know, so that streak is over. It's going to be either Tech winning an outright title or they're going to be tied with Kansas State for a Big 12 title, which, let's face it, still sounds pretty sweet.
Yeah, that's right. Beers always talked about, we got to be part of the fight. We got to be part of the fight, and it's an 18-round fight, and he's a fighting kind of a dude, that Beard. And so, but here we are. I mean, it's like, okay, it's round 15 with Apollo Creed.
Yeah.
The thing is, I think Apollo Creed's a little bit woozy right now. So, we can go into that with Iowa State a little bit more.
Speaking of fight, well, I think we should start with that. I mean, that's who Texas Tech is playing Saturday. That's the opponent. They're in Ames. And you and I have said, look, it's senior night, that Hilton Magic. Iowa State is, you could argue is the most talented, has the most talented roster when all healthy and everything. You can make that argument. It's the only team to beat Texas Tech in Lubbock this year. Very talented roster. And they've been up and down, and boy, it looks like they're pretty down right now. And the word from Ames is that there's been a couple of fights, that the teammates have been fighting with each other, that basically the locker room is just, there's all kinds of turmoil. They just lost to West Virginia, West Virginia, they've jumped up and beaten some teams this year, despite being down, but there's obviously some trouble there in Ames, Mighty Joe.
Yeah, beat them by 15 points. I mean, and West Virginia controlled that game from the open and tap pretty much, and just whipped them, man. And that was the first game they played without Sheok, who broke his toe, as you probably know, and involved in a fight. And I don't know, it's kind of unclear as to whether somebody slammed the door on his toe or whether he was furious after the fight and kicked it or something. Either way, busted toe, that's like close to 20 points a game out of your lineup right there.
He's an all Big 12 performer, isn't he?
Absolutely. He would have been an all Big 12. I don't think, and he still probably will be. So that's very difficult to deal with. And on top of all this stuff, it just seems like that's a locker room full of maniacs right now. I'm not sure about Prohm as whether he's kind of a forceful enough tyrannical sort of a guy that you need to control a bunch of wild children, and I mean, a Beard, I don't think you're going to ever see him let anything like that happen. No. That's the kind of guy that's going to be on top of everything all the way. So, but that's the situation there. A couple of fights in practice, and then in the game last night, Michael Jacobson and Talon Horton-Tucker were woofing at each other when they were doing a huddle, because Jacobson was mad that Horton-Tucker didn't come over to the huddle quickly enough. He was kind of dogging it a little bit. And he's like, get over here. Yeah. And, they started going at it. So it's a poisonous situation right there. And overall, I think on balance, that's got to be probably a pretty good thing for Texas Tech. Because, all right, it's senior night. But here's the deal, man. What if like the entire family hates one another, and then you got a family reunion? What does that do? That's the same situation right now. I just kind of one of those deals where everything's supposed to be so happy and good.
Right. Like we saw with Texas Tech.
Exactly. That's the way it's supposed to be.
But I mean, amazing.
In this, with Iowa State, it could be like this accentuates the fact that these guys don't like each other. And how do you celebrate in a situation like that? You feel like a hypocrite probably. So it could be kind of a weird situation. And I think if Tech punches them in the mouth, and listen,
think they'll fold?
I think they will. Get them down by about 15 points, and that might be it. And West Virginia just physically whipped them last night. Just pushed them around. And Tech is more than capable of doing the same thing. So I think that's got to be kind of key for Texas Tech, is just to play really tough and physical with these guys and get on them early. And then you just probably cruise to the win, I would think,
That would be amazing. Just playing devil's advocate here, just because sports are crazy.
Yes.
It sounds poisonous, sounds terrible, but there is the whole us against the world rally kind of, that kind of deal, that factor that could play a role Saturday that I'm just, you're at this point, I'm afraid something terrible is going to happen. It's going to ruin it. It seems like Tech is always just, when they get to a position like this, they're this close to claiming a championship in football and basketball, and it gets taken from them somehow, whether it be like Keenan getting hurt last year, obviously 2008 in football, you go up to Norman and that happens, So it just seems like they're always just so close and can't quite get over the hill or over the hump. And so we'll have to see. This is some, I mean, fights happen, fights occur on teams and everything, but the implosion that seemingly is taking place at Iowa State, that's crazy. That's some craziness. But let's focus just on the court. You mentioned just obviously getting off to a good start, but what else? What else will be key for the Red Raiders to get the win and secure at least a portion of the Big 12 title?
Well, it's really pretty simple, to be perfectly honest. They've been playing basketball at an extremely high level the past month, I guess, you'd say, right around there. Sure. Particularly on the defensive end, but the offense has kind of picked it up as well, and now they're playing offense just almost as good as they are defense.
Yeah. And
they're holding serve on the boards. So, I mean, what it comes down to is if they continue to play that level of basketball, if they transfer what they've been doing up there to Ames, then they will win. I mean, I don't think, even if Iowa State is playing their A game, which is what they did down here in Lubbock, they won by 4 points here in Lubbock. But if they play that game again and Texas Tech plays like they've been playing this past month or so, then I think Tech still wins that game. So, I mean, they've just got to kind of like, bottle what you've been doing and then take a big swig once they get up in Iowa, and if they do that, then I do believe they win the game. They're the better team right now. They're playing better. Shayok is, now that's the thing about Shayok. He missed the West Virginia game last night.
Right.
We don't know for sure that he's going to miss the Texas Tech game. I guess there's a chance that he could be coming back, but it seems like the general consensus is that he is going to probably sit that game and may even sit the Big 12 tournament, and then try to get him ready for the NCAA tournament. So, if that's the case, I mean, that's hard to overcome. Take Jarrett Culver out of the lineup for Texas Tech, and you got some issues.
Yeah.
So, anyway, it'll be interesting to see what happens with regard to Shayok.
Hey, Joe, one final question here about the Red Raiders. Won 8 straight here. They're going for this Big 12 championship. If they were able to somehow beat Iowa State there and win at least a part of, a Big 12 basketball title, where would that rank as far as in your lifetime amongst Texas Tech men's sports team accomplishments?
Yeah, in my lifetime, that would probably be the tops. It really would. I mean, I just can't think of, you had the
Elite Eight run.
The Elite Eight run last night, and then you had the team in '96 that went 30-2, Sweet 16. They went undefeated in the Southwest Conference.
Yeah,
okay, but that was Southwest Conference. This is the Big 12, and this is a lot tougher league, and so.
Would any football accomplishment be close to rival?
The greatest season for me in memory anyway was 2008, of course, and you had a couple of really, really good years in 1976 and 1973. Yeah. In '73, they went 11-1. The only game that they lost was to Texas, which I believe Texas may have won the national championship that year. And then Tech beat Tennessee in the Gator Bowl, I believe it was. That was very, very good, although that's just a little bit out of my memory.
Sure.
And I think they finished something like 11 in the country, 11-13, something like that, right around there. So pretty doggone good. But, and then in '76, 10-2. Which it was a great year. They lost to Houston. They would have won the Southwest Conference Championship that year, but they lost here in Lubbock the first year that Houston was in the Southwest Conference. But then, they went and they lost to Nebraska in the Bluebonnet Bowl. So that kind of takes them out of the run. I'd have to say either the '73 season would probably be the best contender in football. Maybe that '96 year, but again, you got to factor in it's the Big 12 versus the SWC, and that gives the advantage to this team, I think.
All right. So if they won the Big 12 championship and then went to the Final Four, just blow everything out?
Yeah, it's easy at that point. It's a slam dunk.
Absolutely. All right. Hey, Joe, great stuff as always. Thank you all for watching, and until next time.